Okay, good morning, everyone. Let me see here. Okay, the purpose of this video is not to, you know, try to be divisive or cause division or cause anger to anyone, but I have to present the case for the Judaic Y chromosome haplogroup because I've made other videos about it, but I haven't really shown the evidence in detail. So what I would like to do in this video is to show the evidence in detail, making the case for the Judaic Y chromosome haplogroup, or which is also the Semitic haplogroups, as opposed to the other haplogroups. Okay, so it's I sent a telegram to Dr. Jeanson and explaining my view, and he hasn't really responded to me as far as I know, as far as I can tell, or hasn't changed his views. Of course, he wrote a book called Traced, and he has the Hamitic people as being the haplogroups of A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And then he has the I and J as being the Japhethite group. And then he has the K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, and T as being the Semitic group. Okay. So I'm not sure if I brought up the right picture to explain it. Let me see. Let me just go ahead and bring this one up here. Hold on, I gotta share screen. Bring this one here. And let me just go ahead and present this. The conventional wisdom, of course, is that, by all accounts, the J1 is Middle Eastern Semitic. Right? So that's the conventional wisdom, which Dr. Jeanson disagrees with. He believes that the Judaic people are the TY chromosome, this T right here. And let me see, this T right here in the Horn of Africa. Now, I believe that this is the Greek Sea people that has trade with the Horn of Africa, and there's Greek descendants in Africa today, to this day. And it's the same T that's in India here, which would be the TY chromosome. But I'm not going to be focusing too much on the T right now. I just want to make the case for the Judaic J1 and J2 Middle Eastern as being Judaic, especially this J2M172. Because when Israel was kicked out, they were kicked out to the north. So all this J2 in this area, all through here, all the way from Italy through Greece, through Anatolia, through the Levant area, all the way into Persia, this J2 is Middle Eastern Semitic, and it would be Judaic. J2 would be Judaic, especially this M172, which I I believe would be the descendants of the house of David and Solomon. So, because it's the largest population. Okay. So, this is a table of nations here. Japheth is the oldest son. Ham is the youngest son. Shem is the middle son. And of course, the Semitic population being Elam, Asher, Arpachshad, Lud, and Aram. Okay. So now this is the show, which is going to be important in a little bit. The descendants of Javan, which I believe is the actual Y chromosome of the Greek Sea people that had trade all the way down to the Horn of Africa, all the way to India and places, with probably Alexander the Great as well. But his descendants are basically Mediterranean, or largely Mediterranean / Phoenician, because his descendants are Dodanim, Elisha, and Kittim, plus Tarshish, which we're going to see is going to be significant in a little bit in Iberia. That's Tartessos. Okay, that's Tartessos. Okay, there's Tartessos. That's Tarshish. So, and of course the descendants of Shem are Lud of the Lydians, Aram of the Arameans, later the Syrians, Asher of Assyria, Elam, and of course, I don't know if you can see it very well, it's Arpachshad, Sela, Eber, and Peleg. And of course, this is Babylon, Ur of the Chaldees, and Babylonia. Okay, so moving right along. Okay, so one point being that this would be the Hamitic, according to the Simmons genome diversity, Y chromosome phylogeny. The A, B, C, D, and E would be the Hamitic population, clearly, the youngest son. Now, of course, the skeptics want to root the tree in A here somewhere, but just because there's a large, considerable genetic distance doesn't equate to age, because, of course, Ham is the youngest son. So even though Ham is the youngest son, he has this lineage of Cush, this Cushite lineage here, that has the largest genetic distance of anyone else. And so the other two options here would be the nations, the northern nations that the Bible refers to, and the Semitic populations, which we just looked at, of Asher, Aram, Elam, Lud, and Arpachshad. That's 5 sons. Shem had 5 sons. 1, 2, 3, 4, and Arpachshad is 5. These are descendants of Abraham, Arpachshad, and otherwise Hebrew or Arabic. Now, usually when you have a population in one area, they can move to other regions, but there will always remain, especially if it's a significant population, there will always remain behind a certain percentage of the population will remain in the area where they came from, for all intents and purposes, in many cases anyway. Now, the other son of Noah would be Japheth, who had 7 sons. And the Bible says that God would enlarge Japheth. So there's 2 populations here, which is Gomer and Magog, which make up probably about half the world's population today. When you combine Gomer and Magog. So let's count the sons of Japheth here would be R is Gomer, 1, Q is Madai, 2, K is Tubal, 3. Then you have the Greek Thracians is L, and the Greek Sea People T, that's 5. Then you have Meshech in the north. Meshech went north. That's 6, and Magog is 7. 7 sons of Japheth. So 5 sons of Shem, 7 sons of Japheth. And now I have to show the evidence of the Judaic Y chromosome. So, in this chart, here's a T. There is a T in this population here. Remember in Iberia? This is Iberia, but Tarshish is right here. So it turns out that Tarshish is which Y chromosome? If it's a T, Y chromosome, it's this right here. So that's why the T is represented here in this population here and up here. The only place that you find the TY chromosome in a significant amount is the Bragança Jews in Portugal, but which is also in the host population, the general population. But of course, even in this case, which is the largest percentage I've ever seen of the TY chromosome in the Jewish population, in the Bragança Jews, still the J2 is a larger percentage. The J is still a larger percentage of the Jewish population. So a full third of the population of the Bragança Jews is the J Y chromosome. And of course, then there's the I as well. The IM170, which is the I1, is this green, and this other light green is the Assyrian population that is often in the Jewish population to begin with, but it's in the host population as well. But then we go to the Belmonte Jews, and a good 2/3 of the population is J in the Jewish population. Now, from here on out, you're not going to see any more T in the Jewish populations. And the reason for this T being in this population here is because of the Tarshish, which is the descendant of Javan, being in Iberia, being in this location. Okay. But now we go to the Sephardic Jewish population. These are Sephardic Jewish populations. One in Morocco. There's no T. There's no T. In fact, there's no T in any of these populations. You would think that there should be a percentage of the original Judaic population, because the Jews are Jews because they're Judaic. That's why they're called Jews. It's because they're the Judaic people. And the point that needs to be understood is that the Judaic people are a people who don't mix with the population wherever they go. They can't even allow a Gentile into their temple, into their synagogue. They can't mix. Remember Peter, where he was told to mix with the Gentile population? Well, the Jews that remained Judaic or didn't believe in Jesus, they kept to themselves and did not mix with the nations. Of course, there's going to be other Y chromosomes in their population, of course. But it's a population that doesn't mix with the general wherever they go, the population where they go. So you should expect that the largest percentage of their population is going to be Judaic. So you have the J, you have two haplogroups here of J, of J1 and J2, which J1 can be either Arabic and it can also be tribe of Levi as well, as we'll see in a little bit. Or maybe I can just go ahead and explain it right now, because the Cohen modal haplogroup is J1. And the Cohens, the priests of Israel, are descended from Levi. So J1 is Arabic in many cases, but J1 is also the Cohen modal haplogroup, which means that some of the tribes of Israel could be J1 as well that are not Judaic, because the tribe of Levi is not Judah, right? So it's a separate lineage from Judah. But the J2, especially the M172, is Judaic, probably even Davidic, descendants of David and Solomon. So here we go. In Morocco, this is the Sephardic Jewish population in Morocco. 1/3 is J1, J2. And we have G, which is Assyrian as well in the population, but Assyrian is also Mediterranean. Then you have the R, probably R1b, the R1b in the population. Of course, you have the EM123, or no, that's the EM78. EM78 would be like the Berber population, which is the local population, but still significant portion of the Jews in Morocco, Sephardic Jews in Morocco, are J2. Libya, same thing. More than 1/3 of the Jewish population is J2. Then there's the E78 and the EM123, which are both probably Mitzrayim. Both these E's are Mitzrayim. Then you have this Sephardic Jewish population in the Mediterranean, which is a good 2/3 of the population is J2 M172, and even more is J1, and no T. None of these populations have a T in the Sephardic Jewish populations. None of them. At least not in this diagram. Not in these communities. Bulgaria, same thing. A good quarter, and if you include J1, which could be Arabic, it could be Israel. That's a good, 1/3 of the population, if you include both of them. 1/3 of the population in Bulgaria is J, which is Semitic. Of course, G is Semitic too, so that's 2/3 of the population is Semitic. Plus you have I from the lost tribe of Dan in this population in Bulgaria as well, but I, of course, is part of the local population in this area as well, which could explain the reason for the I, or the tribe of Dan, being in this population. Of course, in Turkey, same thing. If you include both J1, J2, it's a good 1/3 of the population, which this is an ancient population or ancient area of Anatolia, which includes many of the other ancient populations, which includes Assyria, the G. It includes the R1b, the R1a. It includes maybe the Q, which is the Medes, the Madai, and various lineages of Mitzrayim. And no T anywhere registering in any of these populations. So that makes it kind of difficult to suggest that T is the Judaic population, which didn't mix with the local populations wherever they went. That's one reason why they were hated, was because they kept to themselves. They didn't allow a Gentile, a non-Jew, into their communities unless they wanted to convert, or unless they converted to Judaism. So a population like that, especially a Judaic population, especially of the house of David, with many descendants from the same lineage, you're going to try to tell me that there's no more Judaic population in these Sephardic communities? That the original, you're going to try to tell me that the original Judaic population doesn't exist in any one of these Sephardic communities? No, because there's the house of David and Solomon that had many descendants, which were the Jews. They were the Judaic people. So you can expect that the majority of the population is going to be Judaic. Which if you look at, for example, the Ashkenazi Jews, a good almost half of the population of the Ashkenazi Jews, good half of the population, 1% being I, is Judaic. Okay, and then in this population here of Ashkenazi Jews, 3% is T, 3%. Now, this is Dr. Jeanson's original Judaic population, supposedly. But I'm going to explain this 3%, which I've explained before, because in the days of King Solomon, when Solomon was king of Israel, there was basically peace in the world, and Solomon was basically king of the whole world at that time, or because of Israel, there was peace in the world at the time of King Solomon. And in the days of King Solomon, there was an alliance with the Phoenicians. And the Phoenicians consisted of the Mediterranean Sea people, which are descendants of Javan, which are Dodanim, Elisha, and Kittim, of Cyprus, and also later the Phoenician population was significantly, had the T paternal Y haplogroup. So that's the reason there's 3% of the Javan Sea people in the Judaic population. And of course, J being Judaic and otherwise descendants of Israel. E1, B1 is Albert Einstein, who was a Jew, autosomally Jewish, right? But his Y chromosome was Mitzrayim. And the G of the Assyrians, the Assyrian Y chromosome is always seems to be a part of the Judaic population as well. Ashkenazi Jews being from the area of Ashkenaz, son of Japheth, would obviously have the R1A of Ashkenaz himself, descendants of Ashkenaz himself in their population. So that explains the R1A, R1B being Riphath of the Mediterranean, Q being the Medes of Madai, and of course I is the lost Danite tribe in Europe. But only 3% of the Javan Sea people in the population of Ashkenazi Jews that lived in the land of Ashkenaz, the son of Japheth. Okay, here's another example of the Sephardic Jews. And here it shows, again, 3% of the Judaic population with the Javan Sea people, because of the relationship with between Israel and the Phoenicians, which consisted largely of the T paternal Y haplogroup. So that's the reason for the Y chromosome, which is Japhetic, descendants of Javan, in the Sephardic Jewish population. And again, a good 50%, almost 50% is Israel and Judah in the Judaic population, and or possibly some Arabic. But it's still Semitic. And of course, G is Semitic as well. So the G, the I, and the J are Semitic. E is Hamitic. R1A and R1B is Gomer in Europe, which is Japhetic. And Q is Madai in the Sephardic Jewish population. But the Q, of course, is of the Medes, which is in the area of the Mediterranean as well. But the Judaic people did not mix with the nations. There could have been some, obviously there was other people in their population, but throughout the years, from the beginning, it seems like Assyria has been there a long time, from the beginning, or a later time, because they were, of course, expelled to Assyria as well. They were kicked out of Israel. When they're kicked out of Israel, they were kicked into Assyria, basically. Okay. So there's one other thing that I wanted to show that I might have to bring up here. And that is, I just wanted to maybe explain a little bit about the relationship that was going on with the Phoenicians. That the relationship with the Israel had, wasn't even Judah at the time, but the relationship that Israel had with the Phoenicians. Now, there's a way to find out exactly what the Phoenician haplogroups were, what the haplogroups that the Phoenicians consisted of. There's a way to find out. Because of the fact that the Phoenicians, in the days of King Solomon, they controlled the trade routes of the Mediterranean. So the Phoenicians, in the days of King Solomon, they had an alliance with the Phoenicians, which controlled all the whole entire Mediterranean. So the Phoenicians controlled the entire Mediterranean, and they controlled all the sea routes. And so all the trade in the Mediterranean and outside of the Mediterranean came from the Phoenicians, and they brought gold, silver, copper to the temple of King Solomon. Okay. Now, there's an interesting thing here about the New World, America. This is color-coded as brown on this graph here. So if you look at these areas, you can see the populations throughout the world. It's color-coded: Africa, is the orange. Then you have East Asia, Southeast Asia, South Asia, North Asia, which I didn't really realize until recently, is that North Asia is all this. This is considered all Asia, which is basically Russia. It's considered North Asia. But when I think of Asia, I'm thinking of South Asia or East Asia. But at any rate, you have this, these populations, or basically a certain percentage of the populations throughout the world and where they're located. Of course, A, B, and E is in Africa. D is in Asia. C is in Asia. Of course, the C3 is missing here, but that's another story. But it's interesting what you have here, because this is indigenous populations. This is supposed to be indigenous populations to the areas, to the area of America, and all these areas are supposed to be indigenous populations. So they sampled all these indigenous populations, and this is what they came up with. There's a curiosity in that in this area of the Great Lakes region, they have the R1b, and they really don't know how the R1b came to be in this area of the Great Lakes. But it's there in the indigenous populations, and it's represented right here with this color code brown. This brown color code. R1b is significant population in the indigenous America, which is brown. Okay, the majority of the indigenous population in America, of course, is Q. Q is in other places as well, but the majority of America consists of Q, and which is Q1. Of course, Q1 is in other areas as well, but the majority of the indigenous population in America is Q. And what do we have over? Oh, look at it. What's this? It's a T. What's a T? At the TY chromosome in America. Oh, that's interesting. It's comparable to the percentage of the R1b in America. The TY, that's Mediterranean. R1b is Mediterranean. T is Mediterranean. What? J2? J2 in America? Have J2 in America. J1 in America. And then, wait. Of course, in the days of King Solomon, Israel wasn't divided yet, right? And you had the boat builders, the Danites. I2 is in America. I1 is in America. Mediterranean, 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 Mediterranean. All Mediterranean. G, Assyrian, Mediterranean in America. E, Mitzrayim, Mediterranean in America. B, probably Mediterranean in America. There's a phenomenon that when indigenous Americans take a DNA test, it comes back Mediterranean, and everybody's scratching their heads. How can they have an autosomal test that comes back Mediterranean? Oh, the sea people, the Phoenicians. The Phoenicians made it to America. The R1b is in the area of the Great Lakes. What else do we have in America? Let's see. Got something. What's this? Mitochondrial DNA in the Great Lakes region in America, in the indigenous populations, all these indigenous populations here. In the Great Lakes region, the X2A, which is a European lineage of mitochondrial DNA of the wife of Madai. X2A mtDNA in Galilee. There's Phoenicia right here. So that's Phoenicia. And you have X2A, which is a mitochondrial lineage of Madai in Galilee. Or this, of course, this X is European, the European lineage of the mitochondrial DNA of the wife and daughters of Madai, but it's in America too, in the Great Lakes region where the copper mines were. They were mining copper, gold, and silver in the days of King Solomon. There's the X mtDNA in Europe and in America, in the area of the Great Lakes region. Okay. This is the Thracian Greek population when Alexander the Great probably brought to India because he liked to ride elephants. That's the reason for the Greek Thracians all the way to India. And when they came, of course, there was already a population of R1A and R2 in India. Here's the Javan TY chromosome of the Phoenicians that had trade with the Horn of Africa, and they have Greek populations in Africa to this day. And in India, I think they followed Alexander the Great to India as well. Maybe they like to ride elephants too, I don't know. Okay, which one? That's not the right one. But anyways, this South of Africa theory has problems because they root the tree with A. So the Neanderthals are A00000000. So you would think that then the A0 and A00 would have Neanderthal DNA, but they don't. They don't have nearly as much as the Eurasian population has. The Eurasian population has more Neanderthal DNA than both Semitic population and the Hamitic population. But according to Dr. Nathaniel Jeanson, the Hamitic population is A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, and H, or something like that. And then this I and J is supposed to be the entire northern nations in I and J, according to Dr. Nathaniel Jeanson. Then these K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, and T is supposed to be all Semitic, which is the northern nations, which is the Goyim, northern nations. But anyway. So here we have descendants of Nimrod in Mesolithic Europe. You have the C1 in Europe, which is the reason for the Europeans being darker, because, of course, Nimrod's descendants are descendants of Cush. Okay, there's one more thing I wanted to show, at least, if I can remember what it was. This is the mitochondrial migrations. There's two separate Semitic lineages of mitochondrial DNA, which are the descendants of Shem's wife and daughters. One of them was given away to Madai, which follows Madai, which is the X, and the A that went to America. Because Madai Q is in America, that's the majority population. And Madai was also in this area of Europe, which is the reason for the X, W, and I in Europe. Then this other Middle Eastern Semitic mitochondrial haplogroup is in Europe, so that 95% of European mitochondrial DNA is Semitic, whether from Middle Eastern Semitic lineage or Madai. But the C, the D, the G, the Z of the Japhetic mitochondrial DNA of the wife and daughters of Japheth is almost exclusively in the East and in America as well. But then there's a branch of this Middle Eastern mitochondrial DNA which is the B, that probably went down here through the Philippines into the Pacific Islands, because it's not up in this area here. It's down in the Pacific Islands, but it made it all the way to America too. This is the Middle Eastern Semitic mitochondrial lineage in America. And there's the X again. There's the X again from Europe, which is in the Great Lakes region, as we saw. N being Meshach. R1A is Ashkenaz, R1B Rippath, I2 being the wayward tribe of Dan. Oh, what was it that I was thinking of? Anyway, I don't know what the reasoning of Dr. Jeanson is, but he has the entire Japhetic population in I and J, which he believes is Turkic I and J. That's why he swapped or switched the the Semitic people with the northern nations of Japheth. He totally switched them, and you can't switch people because there's always going to remain somebody's going to remain behind in the area, even if they go somewhere else. Especially, a Semitic population or Arabic population is always going to remain in the area. And likewise, the northern nations aren't going to leave the northern nation. They're not going to leave the northern nations and go into the Middle East. I don't know what the issue is. This is Meshech. Meshech went north. This is all Meshech. It's not going to empty itself of the northern nations and jump into the Middle East. It's not going to do that. Syria. Again, this is the Q haplogroup of Madai, because Madai went to Europe. Madai was in this area of Europe right here. It's the Q paternal Y haplogroup. And it's represented in Europe to this day in these areas. Descendants of the Medes, Madai. G, of course, being Assyria. And so here's the, basically, you have Lydia, which is Semitic, right? Aram, of the Arameans, which is Syria, that's Semitic. Asher, of the Assyrians, that's Semitic. Elam, of the Elamites, that's Semitic. And Arpachshad. These are the 5 sons of Shem and where they were located in the Middle East. Lud, Aram, Asher, Elam, and Arpachshad. Now, these population can move elsewhere, but there's always going to remain, a number is going to remain in the area. And all these northern nations actually went farther north, of course. Madai being the Medes that went to Europe, Madai being the Medes that went all the way to America. But they remain in this area, in this population, in this Caspian Sea area, or on the other side of Caspian Sea. They're still there. But, of course, you have Javan, Thrace, Gomer, Togarmah, Ashkenaz, Madai, and Meshech and Tubal and Magog are the nations that all went north of the Middle East, Levant area. This is Assyria, the area of Assyria, still there in the area of Assyria to this day. Still in the same area of Assyria to this day. Okay. And of course, we all know about Ur of the Chaldees, of course, in the Middle East, Ur of the Chaldees. And the only Hamitic Y haplogroup you should find in the area is that of Nimrod, the son of Cush. But Nimrod, being the king of the world, had many. There's such a thing known as the house of Nimrod, the same way as there's a house of David. There's a house of Nimrod as well, because he was king of the whole world and had many sons as well. So his Y chromosome should be in the area, and the only Hamitic Y chromosome in the area of significance is the C paternal Y chromosome. So that's what got me started on this whole haplogroup thing, because of Nimrod and his C paternal Y chromosome. Of course, Abraham came from Ur of the Chaldees. Abraham's father, of course, was Nimrod's official. And Abraham was told to get out of there and go to the land that God would show him. So that's what he did. So he left this place. He left Babylon, or left this area of Babylonia, and went to where God showed him in the place of the mountain of the Lord, Jerusalem. So there's that. Again, we have Javan, Greeks, Little Lydia, Hittites, Ashkenaz, Madai, Medes, Assyria, Aram, Elam, Arpachshad, Mitzrayim, and Push, and Cush is farther south. There's the W, mitochondrial DNA of a lineage of the wife and daughters of a Madai, the Medes in Europe. That's a W lineage that's linked to A and linked to X and I. Here's the mitochondrial DNA that's Middle Eastern Semitic, the B. The B is Middle Eastern Semitic, which is all these blue shades from gray to blue. Then there's the F, which is linked to B, and the P is also linked to B. This is Middle Eastern mitochondrial DNA in the Philippines as it's traveling to the Pacific Islands. So all the blue shades, the red, all the gray and blue shades and red, all of the gray and blue shades and the red are Middle East. Well, not this gray, not this dark gray. This is like other. I think it's other. Yeah, that's others. Anyway, so not the dark gray, but the lighter shades of gray and the blue and the reds and the black is a Middle Eastern mitochondrial DNA that passed through this area of the Philippines and went on to the Pacific Islands all the way to America. Absent was the Semitic Y chromosome, which is the one that suffers most, because there are stories of, Jewish people going to the land of gold, which is right here in the Philippines, Havala, but the Y chromosome of the Judaic Y chromosome is absent in this area. The only thing remaining is the Middle Eastern mitochondrial lineage, Semitic mitochondrial lineage. There's the Berbers, M81, Berbers. Okay. This is the Danites. This is the entire Danite population. The wayward tribe of Israel, the Dan, descendants of Dan, Tsar Dan, Prince Dan, in Europe. Okay. This is my new. I guess it's the most recent phylogeny of the human Y chromosome. I was trying to explain the difference between BT, CT, and CF, and or the other ones. Okay, BT and CT means B all the way to T. CT means C all the way to T. And CF means C and F absent the D and E. So CF is the sense of Nimrod that are linked to the rest of this population. F, which includes the entire rest of the phylogeny. This is blue. This is F is all the way to T. So it's F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, and T. That's what F is. When you see BT, it's B all the way through. When you see CT, it's C all the way through. But when you see CF, it's C and F, absent the D and E. But from F, it's all the way through. It's all the way through the rest of the population. And then when it's GHIJK, it's GHIJK, and K means all the rest going all the way through. K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, and T. So that's how I have it set up. For whatever reason, I have no idea, but that's the way they did it. Okay. Can't remember what else I wanted to cover. Oh, yeah. This might be it. You have a contrast here. I don't know if this, just to get an idea, the contrast between the Denisovan DNA, Denisova is highlighted as hot, and Neanderthal is highlighted as cold in this illustration here. So you have, depending on how it's So you have the Japhetic population is Neanderthal. The Denisovan population of the Denisova cave is both Hamitic and Japhetic, or Eurasian. So the Denisovan this is the area of the C and the D paternal Y chromosome, and it's the area of course, the Eurasian population. So Denisovans are a mix of Hamitic population and Neanderthal, and of course in America, it's Eurasian in America because of the Q paternal Y chromosome, which is Eurasian. Okay, thought there was something else I wanted to show. I can't remember exactly what it was now. I guess it covered just about everything. Okay. Okay, I think this is a better illustration here of the Denisova allele frequency. Denisova allele frequency. This is the Denisova cave. In this area was the area of the descendants of Nimrod and the Sino descendants of Sinim, the Canaanite tribe Sinim, apparently, because that's a DY chromosome. The DY chromosome haplogroup seems to be affiliated or linked to the E or the E2, which would be Canaan. So Nimrod is Hamitic and Canaan is Hamitic. So Sinim, the D paternal, and the C paternal are Hamitic, which is the reason that the Denisova allele frequency is most found in Papua New Guinea, which is Hamitic and Asiatic or Eurasian, which is the K. In this area, there's the K, M, and the S, which is Eurasian. And it's also Hamitic of Papua New Guinea. But the interesting thing here that I wanted to note is that the Denisova allele frequency by itself is hot in red, as you see here. But it's this cold region here that I wanted to notice and indicates to me that this cold region is Semitic, because Denisova being Eurasian and Hamitic, making these areas hot here, the cold region would be not Eurasian and not Hamitic, which would be Semitic, and that's this area here, going up all the way to where the I1 Y chromosome is. You can see like a blue streak going from the Semitic area, which is Semitic. This is the Semitic area, going up through here all the way to Scandinavia, or Denmark actually, where the I1 haplogroup is, I1 or I2. And there's a little tinge of it in America as well. And of course, this is interesting here because this is an area of where the CY chromosome is, which is Hamitic, and the QY chromosome is, which is Japhetic. So the Denisova being Japhetic And Hamitic means that it's hotter in this region here for the Nisava allele frequency because of the descendants of Nimrod in this area and the descendants of Madai in the area, which is Eurasian and Hamitic, which I could actually show as well. But I guess I could show that now. Because in America you have the Q, paternal Y chromosome of the Amerindians, the Q. There's the R1b again. Remember the R1b? The R1b, they didn't know how it got there into the Great Lakes region. But there it is. But there's also the C3 of the Nadine, and all the way down through into South America, you have the C3 paternal Y haplogroup, which is the descendants of Nimrod all the way in the northern tip of South America. So like I said, remember I said that this hotspot for the Nisava allele frequency is both Hamitic and Eurasian, this being of Madai and this being of the descendants of Nimrod. And as a side note, this is where I'm from. I'm from 3 degrees below the equator right here. And that's where I was raised, on the Amazon River. And they read a book. They read a book to me when I was a kid that was about 5 years old about a savage tribe called the Waorani, or the Auca Indians. Auca is the Spanish name meaning savage. They call themselves Waorani. And they killed 5 missionaries. Then the wives and children later went into this tribe with the gospel. And they went from a homicide rate of their own population of about 60% homicide rate among themselves to near zero because of the power of God's word. Whether or not they became Christians or not, it benefited the whole community, tribe. And one of the people that killed the 5 missionaries adopted one of the missionaries' sons to teach him, things that he wouldn't know because he didn't have a father. So it's just, shows the power of God's word, what God's word is able to do in the lives and the hearts of people. And my paternal Y chromosome is I1M253. I can trace my ancestors to Edinburgh, Scotland. But it's very important to, not delegitimize the Judaic population, because it's the woman that gave birth to the child, and the a flood came trying to eliminate the woman that gave birth to the child, and the ground opened up to keep the woman from being drowned. Of course, the woman being the Judaic people. And I think it's important to not delegitimize the Judaic population as being Judaic, and of course Semitic. And it's it's really a slap in the face for the Jewish people to say that there's nobody left that's Judaic in their population, and that their Judaic population is one of the northern nations. It's a real slap in the face. And of course, Cohen modal haplogroup is J1. So tribe of Levi is J1. Tribe of Judah, M172 is J2. Of course, when they were expelled, and of course Josephus talks about the number of Jewish people that were expelled in this area, in these areas here. And we can see that they're still there. Still there in these places where they were exiled to. And of course, Italians are very much Judaic as well. And you can't swap the northern nations with the Semitic people. It's just not possible. Another point is that the Gypsies, this H1 population, is Elamite, but they also claim to be Judaic. Turns out that a good majority of their population is H1, the majority. But if you look at the second largest Y haplogroup in the Gypsy population is J2, and they claim to be Judaic. It's not J1, it's not I2, it's J2. So I don't know if I could find it. The original population of Italy is Tubal, and to this day, Central Italy has 8% of K2, which I had assigned as being Tubal. And all these others are from other places, of course. All these others here are from outside, but the original population of Italy, central Italy, is still there. 8% of central Italy is K2, which is Tubal, which is the original northern nation that settled in Italy. See if I can find the gypsy pie chart. I don't know which one I'm on. Gypsy. I haven't seen that gypsy pie chart in a while. So I don't know if I can find it or not. I'm not seeing too many pie charts here in this one. The Uyghurs are Judaic too. Altai. What's this? Okay. Kazakhstan, Balkan, Turk. The Persian population, of course, is interesting because it's where the Judaic people were exiled to. Here's the J2M172, probably the descendants of King David. Plus, you have other lineages of J2 here as well. Plus, you have different lineages of J1. In the Persian population. Okay, what am I looking for again? The Uyghurs? No, I'm looking for gypsies. I don't know if I got gypsies. Mongolians. Turks. Uyghurs. Here's the Uyghur population. The Uyghurs, of course, are along the Silk Road. The same way that the Judaic population went up the Rhine River, they also traveled down the Silk Road. Turns out the Uyghurs are 1/3 Judaic, J2, not J1, not I1, not G, not anything else, J2, Judaic. The Uyghur populations, the ones that are, being persecuted right now. Well, let me see. What else I got here. Don't know if this one would have it. Nope. I got to find that gypsy pie chart again. I don't know why I don't have it here. I must have it somewhere else. Okay. So, let's see what's going on here. Shalom, rebuke and reprove. Shalom. So, let me see. Let me just go ahead and try to see if I can find that gypsy. Okay. Not sure where it would be. Okay, what's this? Pen. Sometimes it's hard to find what you're looking for. Don't know why. Uh, why's it got to be so hard? I don't know. It's got to be so hard. Don't know why. Mitochondrial. Try this. Oh well. I gotta find it. See if I can. Anyway, I guess I can't find it real easy. I gotta make it hard. About it. But I guess it's about it. Just want to make sure I covered everything. But while I'm at it, I might as well go through this as well, just for the fun of it. In the days of Peleg, the earth was divided. So you have fossils that line up between the continents. You have sediment layers that line up between the continents, connecting all these continents right here. Probably Asia was here as well, because that seems to be what the evidence shows. Okay, all of these continents are connected by fossil evidence and by sediment layers and by glacial striations on top of the sediments deposited by the global flood, on top of the fossils that were buried by the global flood. You have glacial striations after the global flood, going from south to north in Africa, in South America, India, and Australia. So what you have here, you have an unbalanced situation here where it would have been an oblong Earth, top heavy, as it's spinning around, would have been wobbling, would have made the Earth wobble, because you have all these. Of course, you have North America here, you have Europe here, you have Asia here, all concentrated on the South Pole on one side of the Earth, not on the other side. So it would have been unbalanced, wobbling, become unstable. And as somebody suggested to me, this ice accumulating on the South Pole probably didn't help any. And then you had a breakup of the continents. What happened was each of these continents went north from where they were. South America went north, Africa went north, India went north, Australia went north, and as they went north, they separated from each other. In the process, they froze the mammoths and lions and deer and wolves, everything in Siberia and North America. As each of these land masses moved north away from the South Pole, the northern parts were shoved into the Arctic, and that's why they were all frozen. Entire forests were frozen after the 100 years after the global flood in the days of Peleg, and lifespan was shortened a second time. The lifespan went from less than 1,000 years to 500 years because of the global flood. In the days of Peleg, the lifespan was cut in half a second time, went from less than 500 years to less than 250 years. So it was a traumatic event that caused everybody to isolate and separate into their family groups. And they began speaking their own languages because of the separation. Then they gave up building the Tower of Babel, and then they started to spread out. But what happened is that the animals had 100 years to get to South America. So you have living animals that are the same animal that's in Africa and South America. One example being the leopard of Africa and the jaguar of South America is the same animal. Another example is the African honey badger has a counterpart, same animal called the greater grison in South America. Crocodiles in Africa, crocodiles in America. They were separated 100 years after the global flood as well. And of course, the word Peleg was named Peleg because it was divided. The earth was divided. He was named Peleg because the earth was divided when in his days. He was named Peleg. The word Peleg means divided or meant divided. But in the Aramaic, it doesn't mean divided anymore. It means as the waters flow, of course, between the continents that were divided. No longer meant divided, it meant as the waters flow, or where the waters flow between the continents that were divided. In the Aramaic, that's what it means. Okay. So R1B Ripef. It's Iranian. Okay, here's the J2 haplogroup. This is a map of where Israel and Judah were dispersed, or mostly Judah. The Judaic people were kicked out of Israel too. Of course, some always stayed behind. But Josephus speaks of these areas being heavily populated with Jewish people or Judaic people and Israelite people, as well. And you can see that when they were kicked out of Israel, they went north of Israel, right? Where they are to this day. Of course, they also followed the Silk Road, as I mentioned previously. And these areas, the areas of the Uyghurs, are, largely Judaic people that followed the Silk Road. As well as going up the Rhine River. This is the Rhine River right here. I lived right here as well, right there. See this corner right there of the Rhine River? I lived for 2 years on this corner. I could walk across from Germany into France. This is France. And I got on a train one time, fell asleep, ended up in Basel, Switzerland, and I was trying to figure out where I was, and I put my German marks, tried to put them in the machine. It said franc, and I'm thinking franc, Swiss franc. Oh, then I realized that I fell asleep on the train and ended up in Basel, Switzerland. Oh well. That was a lot of fun. Then I had to explain to the police why I was there in Switzerland. Well, that's about it. Oh, and there's another. Oh, what am I doing here? There's another thing that needs to be addressed. Not genetic information, but this idea of dark matter and dark energy needs to be addressed because they don't seem to be taking into account the expansion of space. Of course, they know that they can see it's expanded, but they're not really understanding why it's expanded. They think it's expanding more and more, continuing to expand, but it's not expanding. It is expanded in outer space where there's no matter. So you don't need dark matter. The reason why they think they need dark matter is because these spiral arms are moving faster than what they think they should be moving. But the real reason for the spiral arms moving faster out here is because the rate of time out here is not the same as the rate of time in here, in the center. So time goes by faster out here than it does in here in the center. Likewise, the measure of distance is expanded out here a lot more than it is in the center. So there's another observation that they have, and that's these plasma jets or beams of light that shoot out from a galaxy. They had this observation. They observed this happening while it was happening. They observed it and they measured and calculated the rate of this jet shooting out from the center of this galaxy. They said it was 5 times faster than the speed of light. Oh, there's a problem there because you can't have anything going faster than the speed of light for one thing, and 5 times the speed of light means you got something wrong. And what they got wrong is that the rate of time here is not the rate of time here, and it's not the rate of time here, not the rate of time here. The speed of the passing of time goes faster. The farther you get away from the center of this galaxy here, the faster time passes by. Likewise, the farther you get away from the center of this gravitational well, the more distance is expanded. So when they're measuring 5 times the speed of light, they're assuming that this distance is constant. The distance is not constant because you have an expansion of distance. The farther you get away from this gravitational well, the more expanded space is going to be. So let's say you're looking at this star or galaxy, whatever it is here. You're looking at light from this galaxy here, and you could see the difference. You know, 5 times faster than the speed of light. Just suppose that the beam of light was shooting out of this galaxy, and by the time it comes out here, they're measuring the distance, and they think that light is traveling 5 times the speed of light. What about the distance between this galaxy and our eyes or our detectors, our cameras? How much matter is between our eyes and this galaxy here to slow down time or to contract distance? That means that the light from this galaxy is arriving to our eyes at a much faster rate of time than what they're thinking. So that what God said that a day is with the Lord is like 1,000 years, 1,000 years like a day. It's literally true. Because one day passing by in this galaxy or our galaxy is the same as 1,000,000,000 years or 13 billion years passing by in outer space. Not to mention the possibility of a collapse of the wave function when our detectors within time and space detect photons, because it's the same photon that leaves this galaxy is hitting our eyes. And the actual speed of the photon in the eyes of the photon, and of course, passing through this expanded space where there is no matter to slow down time or to contract distance, it's moving. The photons are moving a lot faster to arrive at our eyes than what they're currently calculating. But that's just another thing that needs to be addressed. So no, it's not shooting up 5 times faster than the speed of light. It's that your calculation of distance and your calculation of the rate of time is not correct, because the rate of time here is not the rate of time here, nor the rate of time out here, and your measure of distance here is not your measure of distance here or the measure of distance here. So they need to make a note of that. So that's about it for that, I guess. And but to sum everything up, we can't be swapping or trying to swap the northern nations with the Semitic population. The Semitic population is in here in the Middle East. You can't, the Jews were kicked out. The J2 was kicked out of Israel. But you have the Arameans, which are the Syrians. You have Asher, which is the progenitor of the Assyrians. And you have Elam of the Elamites and Lud of the Lydians. You can't transplant these people, all these people, you can't transplant them into the northern nations. Because in the northern nations where there's N and O and R, there's no Semitic population with the exception of the wayward tribe of Dan that went into Europe, through the Mediterranean all the way to Europe. You can't do that. It's not possible. The Hamitic population is the youngest population because Ham is the youngest son of Noah. Shem is the middle son. Japheth is the oldest son. So they have it exactly backwards when they want to try to claim the out of Africa theory. So, as I mentioned briefly before, this SNP of BT is B all the way through. This SNP of CT is C all the way through, including D and E. But this SNP of CF is only C, not DE, but F. C and F, which they should put an and in there, C and F, which is F all the way through. So all the people all the way through share these SNPs. BT, the odd one out, of course, is A. CT, the odd one out, is A and B. The only ones that don't have this identifier. CF, the ones that don't have it are D and E, B and A, which indicates to me that C, who I know to be Nimrod, is probably the oldest son of Cush, which might mean Cush is the oldest son, I'm not sure. But at any rate, Nimrod is the oldest son of Cush. And it has to be that these people just lost this identifier that they happened to find, which links Nimrod with the rest of the population. So each one of these are identifiers. I don't even want to call them SNPs. These down here are SNPs, but these are identifiers that this population has, this population no longer has. They happen to find, they got computers and everything. They're finding these identifiers that this population going this way has, and the population this way doesn't have. So they can find these, using computers, they can find these odd identifiers, of Elam, that Elam has, Arpachshad has, and their uncle Japheth has. But which is all lost to the rest of the population. But that's the way it has to be, because Ham is the youngest son, Shem is the middle son, and Japheth is the oldest son. So they have it exactly backwards. If they rooted the tree with Japheth, I'm sure that it would work just fine going the other way. Probably even better. That's my prediction. So that's about it. I think that's about it. Anyways, I might as well quit ranting and, go carrying on and stuff, But that's about it. So, Shalom, Jesus is Lord. Let me see. Well, I guess that's it. I might as well just sign out. I'm getting a little bored. So, but it's very important to, not say or not claim that the Jewish people aren't Jews. It's very important, because they are Jews that, God intends to reach everyone, including the Jews, who are the Jewish people. They're the woman that gave birth to the child. And it's not nice to come along and say that no, you aren't the woman, you're the nations. That's just being very rude. And it's contrary to conventional understanding, wisdom, and science, and everything like that. But without getting too worked up, I have to present the case of the co-modal haplogroup being J1, plus the Judaic populations are all J2 and many times absent the T. It's a no-brainer. It's a, open and shut case. It is what it is. You can't change it, and you shouldn't try to change it. And it's being very rude and to the point of being anti-Semitic to claim that the Jews aren't Jews. A Judaic population that did not mix with the nations wherever they went. And you're saying they're not Jews. It's not very good. But anyway, with that, that's about it. And I'll say goodbye. Stay close to God, and He'll draw near to you. And that's how our lives are transformed, by drawing near to God, because it's His word that cleanses us. It's His word that renews us and teaches us and helps us to keep from falling on our faces. He is able to keep you from stumbling, from falling. He is able to do that by the power of His word. And it's a matter of believing His word. So with that, God bless everybody. Take care, and be true to what's true.